Hey everybody, it's Mr. Grooch here. I am so excited that you've decided to join the new staff team this year. As many of you know, we've had a new staff program for about 5 years, going in our sixth year, and it's time for an update or an overhaul. Not that we have a bad new staff team, but it's time to just kind of ramp up a little bit. And I don't think we could find a better year to do this. I imagine I know transitioning to a new school is difficult. I can imagine what it's like under the current situation. It must just be a little bit unnerving. And so ramping up our support for these new teachers, I think is very crucial. It also will be beneficial to us because I find that in times of struggle or uncertainty, helping another human being on an individual basis is a good way to cope. And so this is the new staff team update for 2021. Now, after we share this video with you, we're going to meet with the individual groups to kind of go over your part specifically. However, I wanted to give a big overview because it's a pretty complex program that we're undertaking here, and I kind of want to see how everything intertwines, and so we provide each other support with that. Okay, so here's the overview. Let me minimize myself a little bit. Presentation will function as an overview of updates and schedule for the new staff meeting. With the new staff team, I'll guide the teacher leaders in providing necessary support for our newest teachers. Carolyn will receive frequent updates. I meet with her weekly, and after new staff team meetings, I bring the reflections and the questions and concerns to her, and we respond to them together. And then she will also participate in the planning and maybe even delivery of some of the teacher development for our instructional and institutional development that we'll get to in a second. Okay, so that's the overview of this little video. The goals of the updates is twofold here. The new staff team has always had the purpose of new teacher support, right? That makes sense, right? It's new teacher support. They're new to the profession or new to our school or both. And having a really comprehensive new teacher or new staff program, it has a lot of benefits, right? One that we haven't really been tapping into a little bit, but not much, is developing new teacher leaders. We're going to get to that in a little bit, but this is the primary shift that we're making in the new staff team. We're spreading out the leadership responsibilities. We'll be using this as kind of our guiding principles. Okay, this is a book written by Tina Bugren, Supporting Beginning Teachers. A couple years into the new staff team at the Richfield campus, I was sent to a conference hosted by Dr. Bugren, and she went over the 4 basic essential types of new teacher support: physical, emotional, instructional, and institutional. It's outlined in this book. If you're one of our teacher anchors, you're going to be getting this, and Ms. Keating and I will be walking you through this. Okay, so those are the 4 things that we have to keep in mind when we're supporting a new teacher or someone new to your staff. Here's where we've been doing well and where the changes are going to take place. Okay, so instructional. We've been doing a pretty good job outside of new staff on instructional, right? We have a great Q-Count program. We have great Q-Count coaches, and they give a very individualized, focused approach. What we're going to do in new staff is we're going to kind of help build that common language that is so important in our coaching program. But sometimes we take for granted that newer staff don't have the same trainings that the older staff may have had. Okay, and so we use Teach Like a Champion a lot, right? We use this a lot, and we refer to these techniques, and we refer to the strategies in this and also in Envoy. But often when a new staff member joins SHPA, we give them a stack of books, right? We don't go much further than that, or we're inconsistent with how we go further with that. What we're going to do is we're going to start looking at those books that we give teachers, right? We're going to follow the approaches and get better faster, which is by the same group that made Teach Like a Champion. Get Better Faster focuses on a 90-day program that takes years worth of PD and puts it into that program. Okay, and so we're going to use Get Better Faster. We're going to use Envoy in our instructional component of this. We're going to rely on master teachers, many of whom are already QComp coaches, but we're going to open it up to other people that might be good at these specific techniques that are outlined in Get Better Faster. Okay, and then we move on to institutional. Institutional, we've been doing pretty well in new staff, and that's kind of maybe where the idea started. How do we get this institutional knowledge to people that are joining us? Okay, so that could be anything from sub-plans to professional development, right? How do you handle report cards? How do you handle conferences at our school? What are we looking for? That type of stuff. Okay, so that's institutional, but it's also more the institution of teaching, okay, and creating that idea of a lifelong learning. This is going to be pretty intensive for our new staff. We don't want it to be overwhelming, but we want to give them more support than we've been giving staff in the past. Okay, so this will primarily stay the same. We might add a few things here and there, but emotional starts to change as well. There's two things to the emotional support that we're going to do. Number one, all of our staff went through Deliberate Optimism last year, and we don't want that to die out. It gives us a lot of common language. It gives us a lot of resources to deal with difficult situations. And frankly, this year it's going to be a component in our LEA professional development, but you kind of have to have that background. And so we're going to be implementing that into new staff. Okay. The other one is the anchor teachers. Anchor teachers, remember we have anchor students or anchor teachers that connect with students. We call that our anchor program. We're going to extend that to our new teachers. We've hand selected some teachers that are going to be teacher leaders or anchor leaders, and they are going to connect with them on a one-on-one basis. And we'll get into that a little bit. And the last one is physical. Physical is the practical, tangible aspects of the jobs. What are the needs in your classrooms? How do I get a stapler, right? Who is this person? A tour of the building. Who is Hugo, right? Those types of things. Who's Lionel? We're going to walk through that, and we're going to continue to do that. We do a pretty good job of that already, but again, we're just going to put more emphasis on it. Okay, so a little bit of changes, a little bit of updates, a little bit of the same. The schedule for the new staff meetings, there'll be 30 minutes, 7:45 to 8:15. We're going to be trying to stick to that amount of time. We've got a lot to do, but we're going to try to stick to that time. But we're going to do it every month, and we're going to do it twice a month. In years past, you start out the year with twice a month, and then it kind of tapers off. Last year tapered off a lot. But this year, to get through everything that we want to do and provide that support throughout the year, we're going to be consistent with that. So weeks A's and C's when we have classes on Monday. Some of our presentations will be virtual and watched before the meeting. Others will be live presentations. Of course, we're going to have to be flexible because we don't know what the guidelines or our plan for instruction is yet, okay? We don't know what either of those are. Of course, I made this video on July 16th, so maybe we do. I don't know. Okay. Here is our link to our year-long schedule. Okay, brief overview. So you can see that we have the 4 types of support here, and we've got the dates over here. These are all the meetings that we're going to have, and sometimes we are going to hit all 4 topics due to time constraints. I don't think that's going to be very often, okay? We're going to focus on one of the areas, primarily instructional and emotional support. Emotional support at the meeting is going to be focused on Deliberate Optimism. Instructional support at the meeting is going to be focused on Get Better Faster and how Envoy relates to those, okay? When it's appropriate, we'll have institutional support. For example, in the first week of October, we'll go over what our expectations are for conferences. Physical support, that's really in the beginning of the year. Those things that we notice that we need, those really pop up. And so the first meeting, I'm going to introduce people to Lionel, Hugo, Monica, and Yannette, right? Most of your physical needs can be met by those people, but also furniture-wise and all that, we'll go over all that, okay? So those are the basic ways that we're going to support, and this is what our schedule looks like. It's going to be tight. And so we have to be sure that when we're presenting a 10 to 15 minute presentation is 10 to 15 minutes, okay? And I know that's difficult. So why are you being asked to support this? There's research that's out there, okay? One report came out of the University of Minnesota in Toronto. Yes, there should be an A there. And they found out that the more school leadership is spread out around the professional community, the higher the results in student achievement. So there's a link between increasing the number of teacher leaders in your community to student achievement in math and reading assessments. That's what they looked at in this test. So that's pretty impressive, right? It's not a zero-sum game. There's not like 800 units of school leadership, and if Carolyn gives up some of hers or I give up some of mine, then that means I have less influence in the community. It's actually the opposite. The more that we spread that out, the more influence that we have as a group. Okay. This study goes on to say that the hierarchy of a school is important, but distributing leadership opportunities is very, very valuable. Okay. And so it goes on to say that even though a school like ours might have a lot of leadership opportunities, and some of you already have some of those, the more that we have, it's easier for us to have access, or our new teachers to have access to that collective knowledge and wisdom embedded within our community. So that's the idea of basically any mentorship program, right? Someone has this knowledge and they're passing it on to the next person in the hopes that it will be easier for them to make the transition or support them through a struggle that they've already been through, right? Many mentorship programs out there. I've done it this way, right? This is what happened to me. This is what I did. You'll have somebody that has already practiced these routines, these techniques, and all of this before you, which is great, okay? So Get Better Faster and Envoy. Master teachers within our ranks will present 10 to 15 minute training sessions using Get Better Faster scope and sequence as a guide. They will tie Envoy strategies to the existing framework. When appropriate, we might also pull in Great Habits, Great Readers, but these are the two that we're going to focus on right now. Get Better Faster, for those of you that don't know, they've kind of looked at Teach Like a Champion and picked, hey, what are the biggest techniques that will make the biggest impact early? What are the things that you have to establish in the classroom before you can focus on the fine tuning, okay, that some of the other techniques focus on? And so it walks you through a 90-day schedule of that. We're going to stretch it out a little bit more just because of how this plays into our 4-part mentorship program. So ours will be longer than 90 days, but the idea is that the scope and sequence, but by the end of the year, they will have gone through this management part of their scope and sequence. They have a management lane and they have a rigor lane. So we're going to go for the management for this first year. So this will bring them up to speed and provide them with common language. Okay, a lot of times we start talking Teach Like a Champion or Envoy strategies and people don't know what we're talking about. Okay, and so this is one way to do that. It's also another way to focus these techniques that a lot of people in our building already know, focus it just on our new staff. So QCOM coaches will be aware of what we're doing, and in their weekly observations of their new staff, they'll be looking for that stuff. But more importantly, it'll be part of their conversations when they are giving instructional feedback. I'm also going to start something new that's called a quick ob. I'm going to be in the new staff classroom at least once a week. I try to do that anyways, so maybe more than once a week. And I'm going to give a little bit of feedback and a little celebrate when I see these techniques that are being employed. Okay. Again, it's going to be different this year. Teaching is going to look different. I don't know what the plan is yet, but it's going to look a little bit different. And so that feedback and that connection, I'm already going to be in there handing out Eagle Bucks and torch tickets. So this quick ob form, it's going to have some of the major strategies that we go over in class. And I'm going to say, hey, I saw this in there and I loved it. Keep it up, that type of stuff. Real quick observations, real quick feedback, but a lot of it, hopefully. Oh yeah, the next one, Deliberate Optimism. You know how much of a fan I am of this book, and you know how much it impacted what we did at school last year, and I hope to continue this year. This year, Ruth Hansen and Kyle Krieger have agreed to take this and what we've done what we did last year and make it a little bit better, a little bit more complex, a little bit more catered to new staff. And they're going to give 10, 15-minute presentations on each chapter. Hopefully I get to do a couple too. A lot of these will probably be video presentations that will serve us well, because we'll start a library of these chapters in this professional development that we can use year after year after year. We'll probably update, but it's a good basis, okay? That idea of a video library is great too. We'll be looking for that for Get Better Faster, because it's been brought to our attention over and over that the more that we can individualize it to our campus and to our grade levels, the more impactful those videos are. So if we show you videos that are from Teach Like a Champion or Get Better Faster, same types of videos, a lot of overlap. They're good, but it leaves a lot of questions. How would that look at Seven Hills and Seven Hills Richfield in particular, or Seven Hills Richfield Elementary, that type of stuff, okay? So that idea of filming and building this professional library is going to be big too. So deliberate optimism, Ruth and Kyle have a lot of energy. They have a lot of know-how. They have a lot of experience. I think it's going to be great. It's going to bring this book to the next level. This one's very, very exciting to me. Originally, after going to Bugren's conference, I wanted to implement this, but we just didn't have, it wasn't the right time. We didn't have the resources available to us, and we were going through a lot of transitions anyways. And so to ask for another role wasn't appropriate at that time. And so in many ways, I've been trying to function as this emotional connection to the school. And as our new staff grows, it's becoming more and more difficult. Now, I want to play a role in it, and I intend to continue reflection note cards and maybe a reflection journal with the new staff, but somebody else has to be their direct connection for emotional support. And so why do we need this? Okay, so out of this research, the phrase teacher attrition refers to the practice of classroom teachers choosing to quit teaching. Since 1992, teacher attrition in the United States has grown by 50%. Annette Bro and Harry K. Wong found that between 40 and 50% leave during their first 7 years of teaching. Other studies show that's even higher. And a lot of it is, so there are certain things that are outside the control of the classroom, right? Like we talked about, deliberate optimism, like standardized testing and those types of expectations. And those do cause some people to leave teaching, but a big percentage are also things that are within the control of the school or within the control of the teacher themselves. And so that's the type of impact that this program can have. Finally, in a study from the North Central Regional Educational Laboratory, a majority of superintendents classified between 75 and 100% of quitting teachers as either effective or very effective. Now, the definition of an effective teacher, we could argue, right? But the point is, the majority of these people that are leaving are competent. They were doing their job. And so we are seeing a lot of people, a lot of turnover, a lot of attrition in this profession, and some of it can be helped, mediated with a mentorship program. And so that's where we're at. The idea of providing somebody with that one person that they can always go to for an emotional support. We do great job with our coaches, right? Our coaches do this in a lot of ways. A lot of people in staff naturally do this, but this way we're guaranteeing that this person has a connection or someone that is looking out for their emotional needs at school, which is pretty fantastic, right? This is this type of stuff that we look for with our students, and we try to provide for all of our students and families. It just makes sense that we do it for our teachers, right? Again, these are experienced instructors, people that have been with us, have made the transition themselves. They've experienced a lot of the things that these new teachers are going to experience. Okay. By the way, we have 4 new teachers this year at Richfield. That's not a lot compared to what we've been having due to our replication. So 4 teachers, 3 at the elementary school and 1 at the middle school. So it's a great time to implement all this. So anchor teachers, the purpose of anchor teacher is much like the purpose of our anchor program for our students. Teachers are selected based on certain strengths and abilities to help them guide new teachers through a complex through the complexity of teaching in order to preserve and promote the profession. So this idea of identifying people's strengths, it's a great book, Strength Finders. Um, you lead with your strength versus trying to fix your weaknesses. And so we had we hand selected our anchors this year based on certain strengths, certain things that we saw in them that would help them be an emotional support to new staff. I think it's brilliant. Miss Keating has volunteered to help with this process. Her expertise in Adlerian psychology and with she's a social emotional expert. I think it's going to be pretty fantastic. Each of the new anchors and Miss Keating will have this book to be their guide too. I hope to be involved a little bit there too. Okay, and so we have these anchor teachers, and we have Deliberate Optimism. We have Get Better Faster with QComp and master teachers giving that stuff, and we have some institutional and physical support as well. But we also know that this is going to be a learning process, and so this was an overview of all the different parts. Each one of those parts is going to have a separate meeting, probably Google Hangout or Zoom, where we'll get together and we'll talk it over. But throughout the year, I really appreciate feedback, because I know that even though we've put some time into setting this up and we have all the right players in place, collecting that feedback and making improvements every year is important, right? It's kind of what we're doing here. We've had an established program that's been pretty good. I'd say we do a better job than most schools, but there's still room to improve, right? And so connecting new teachers with experienced experts at our school is going to be fantastic. Thank you for joining us in this important team. It's the leaders like you that will help us reach our highest potential. I truly believe that. And I also think that just helping other human beings in times like this is going to be important too. So if you have specific questions about this presentation, shoot me an email. If you're wondering more about your role and what we're going to be doing, know that we'll have a follow-up meeting scheduled here in a little bit, and we'll go over certain roles and responsibilities. Okay, appreciate your time, and I am super excited. So I hope you share the same excitement. All right, take care.